Okay, good morning. How are you doing? All right. Let me just work this out. Hey, everyone. Record on this computer. Oh, it won't let me record. I do not have any space left. All right, well, guess we're not recording then. My computer's really old, but I love you, computer. I really love you, but it's got no memory. I keep constantly just taking things off and putting onto a hard drive, and it's still telling me. Anyhow, good morning. How you doing? Let's just see where we're at with all the, let's see if everything's streaming right. Give you a few moments just to come on. And yep, that one's streaming right. Okay. Well, what I want to do is actually put the link into the dashboard. So those of you that want to come over can. All right, so there you go. So what are we doing today? What are we doing today? Got no real idea. No, I do. I was going to answer some questions, but I'm just going to see what goes on. So much technology going on. Let me see. So, hey, ladies that are on Zoom. I was going to say Instagram, but you're not. You're on Zoom. All right. So many pages. All right. So I'm just closing a lot of the stuff so I'm not distracted because, you know, I just go. I go wherever I'm looking. So closing everything. All righty. Good morning. It's lovely and windy here, but it's quite warm still. So I am going without my fan, but I just did have a hot breakfast. I had my porridge or oats, or I don't know what you call it in your country, but it was good. And mixed with protein powder and some fresh mango off the tree to keep my metabolism going. So those of you ladies, maybe some gents, but it's really about your hormones and metabolism, right? That's not what I'm here to talk about, but certain things happen when we get to, you know, this, we start going into this end, and some of you may be past that. However, people say to me, okay, man, just bear with me because the women around you are going to go through this anyway, and it's our power. All right, so maybe we're talking about this today, our power. Oh, I used to have a show or a live that was called Mother Medicine. It might have been before your time, those that are here, Mother Medicine. And I had some of my friends and colleagues, they would support that. And we talked about taboo subjects. And that's why it was a private group, because we went places. And we're all women from different backgrounds, different cultures, different skin color, different religion, different ethnicity, whatever, however you want to label. Because, you know, everybody loves to label. I don't give a, like, I just, like, whatever. I'm not going there. We're freaking humans. We're a species. Talk to me about that. Talk to me about the human species, because you're all killing each other. You're all killing each other, me included, because I'm part of that energy field, let's call it, right? So anyway, all the diets or all the ways of eating that you've been told are probably, there's different ways for different ages. I don't know if you knew that. But energetically, how you shift and change. And so I don't know if any of you are energy medicine practitioners, but it's really interesting to me how those that work with energy tend to look younger. Right. And those that, again, no judgment, those that don't have any help with that, i.e. Injectables or other things, I don't know, I don't care what you do. I honestly don't, to a degree, for your own self, because even what you eat, you can shift it. You can shift it. So I don't really worry that much. I just, you know, we pray over our food, whatever you want to call it. Eric calls it something else because he's a different background. But we, every meal, sit here, right? And I tend to put my hands over it, or water or whatever. Energy. So what's coming up? Power. I've stopped saying empowered, because you are power. So what does empowered mean? Your power. You know what comes to mind when so today's just a freestyle. I'm just letting it come in. I do have some, like, people have asked me a lot of questions, and if I get to them, great. If not, great. But I'm just feeling into it. So how do we keep ourselves humming all through our life process, whatever stage of life that you're at? There are different things that I guess when we have a relationship with ourselves, like an intimate relationship with ourselves, in some ways I want to say none of that really matters, because we have that intimate relationship with ourselves. Meaning, if you feel, sense, know, some of you may have different primary sensory styles, right? So if this doesn't make sense, because the people I'm looking at have been students or past students, so, you know, I'm talking at that, you know, at a particular level. If something I'm saying isn't clear, ask questions and I'll go there. If no one asks questions, I'll assume that you understand and I'll just keep going, right? So I'm happy to come back around. Just say, what do you mean by that? And it's best to say, what do you mean by, and then tell me what it is, because by the time I see it, I might not know what I've said, right? As a lot of you know, I'll speak and then I won't be able to say it again because I've no idea what I just said, because I'm in the transmission of it. So I've just popped around to all sorts of places already in the first handful of minutes. Power. How do we stay in our power, right? Not to power over others, to power with. I always said that when I was a social worker, I would supervise a lot of university students in psychology and social work and other, right? And I would always be saying things like this, because when you go to university or you have training and you come out, and the jobs that you will go into are usually, there's only a handful of jobs that people are, so the water's just going off. I don't know if you can hear it. That people are choosing for your help. So this might not be relevant, bear with me, because pretty much everything I say is relevant in some level, right? You just got to look at where you're. So if you're not a professional in that way, where are you possibly? I'm not saying you are, but it's a reflection, constant reflection, right? Theory into praxis. Into practice is praxis. It's bringing them together so that in every moment, how you are in the world, you're not powering over somebody. You're not taking their power. Think about that in those types of positions, even nursing, like anything really, but I'm talking about what my job used to be and how I would, part of my job was to train new students coming into the field to do their practice. So they're not fully qualified, but they're working with human lives in some capacity, the most vulnerable humans often. And they come in thinking they know. We call them, so any of you that were that, you're me. I'm talking about me. I'm what's called a wodular in Perth. I'm a wodular. I'm a white fella. So what do you think that, right? I might be a female, which sort of, puts me a peg down a little, right? But I'm still in the perceived power position. I go into communities, very, very poor communities. And the power that we all have. So think about where you are. If you're watching this, you're in a power position because you have technology, you have information, right? You may feel disempowered. But where are you? If you do feel disempowered, where are you overpowering others? And this comes from our fear. Why do we, so social workers, so this is all I mean, this is my background, this is what right? This is why I had to think every step. I was like, ooh, and I'm not perfect. I made a lot of mistakes and I got into a lot of trouble in communities a couple of times because I might have said something that meant something else or whatever because the language different, all this stuff. And man, I had to work because if you put one foot, one toe in the wrong direction, it goes through the grapevine and no one in the community will trust you. So you have to build that trust, right? Intimacy, be true. People will see you. It's not about power over, it's about power with. How can I support? If my job is ABC, right? I never worked for the government directly other than the Defence Force. But think about that even, the power. Think about that. Now, majority of you won't have all of that, right? Those positions in institutions, mental health, law, medical areas, mental health, child protection. What else? You put in the like all of these different areas. Where are you from? Where are you working from? Who are you working with? Or who's working with you? Social security. I don't know what they call it here. I was trying to work it out. So low income, people who get support from the government. We in Australia, it keeps changing. I don't know, right? But there's, I could go into that. I don't want to get cancelled, so I'm just going to pull my head in a little bit here because what I want to say. Yeah, I was a single mum for a long time, right? And I couldn't wait till I paid taxes. So some of you are going to disagree with me. That's fine. I don't care what you do. I'm just sharing so you can reflect. I couldn't wait till I paid taxes. Why? So I could pay that money back. Our taxes are for people who need it and for our roads and hospitals and schools and, looking after, okay, I'm not going politics, right? So bear with me. I know by saying that I just did. However, you get what I'm saying. I am about working with people. Okay, what's happening on the ground, or everything that I ever did, whatever role was on the ground in the field. So I might write policy, which I did. I might have advised politicians, which I did. Right? I did law. I did family law. I did tenancy law and all that. But I worked in the field, at the coalface, on the ground, right? In the parks, we're looking for homeless people under bridges and, you know, along the sides of the rivers and all these areas. I knew where people congregated when they had no support. And I would so this is what I do now. Okay, I'm not sure why I'm telling you that, but it's always like one of you are going through something, because I'm like, I never talk about this stuff. But what I do now is I relay or translate the language of your energy to the human. So do you understand? But what I used to do, what trained me, was I would be in the field with people who spoke or didn't speak the language, or maybe were illiterate. A lot of people are illiterate for one reason or another, or they have their problems with their eyes, diabetes, they've gone blind, or they're like all sorts of things. They can't read the letters that the government send them to get help. They don't know where to go. Right? There is a underground sort of help people. But anyway, that was my job in lots of different areas with a lot of the most oppressed peoples. And this is why I'm bringing this up, because if I went in going, oh yeah, how you doing? How can I help you? Oh, who the hell? Who are you? In your power position, and then what? You're trying to make us feel better. Why? Why are you making us feel better? Why are you making us comfortable in our discomfort? Ooh. If this was a private group, we'd go there further, but right. One of my professors taught me this very early in my career. She said, and I'm not going to mention names because I really don't want to be cancelled, but she made me think. She said, what would such and such think about your role in social change, right? And this was before I even had a job, right, as a student. But the type of this professor wrote the books on structural social work and critical reflection, all that sort of stuff, right? She was at the time far beyond her ways. And she was talking about how we are with people and being conscious of the power in differences. And because we grow up in a certain culture, we are not even aware, right? We're not even aware. So I guess I'm just saying, reflect on that, because the awareness of what your position is. You may feel disempowered, right? If you do, maybe write that down. Where has my power gone? Where has my power gone? Because you all have the divine spark thrown forward. You hold it. Some of you, it may have shifted because you've had a tough time. And that's what can happen. The divine spark can try to exit, right? I just want to check the chat on here. And that's one of the alignments that we can check. It usually comes. So if you're feeling okay, if you're feeling like you don't want to be here, right? And there's different ways of feeling that. So you don't necessarily want it's not necessarily suicidal, but it could be. It might be that you just want to go home, but you don't know what that means. And you don't want to hurt yourself or make that happen or anything like that. Those sorts of things can be an indicator of difficulty in life. And that divine spark, it has moved in your torso, right? And therefore it's misaligned. It's really simple to realign, come back. And every person, so I've been doing this work for a long time, probably, you know, I don't know who's watching, a long time, right? And there is nobody that I have worked with in that way, going through, you know, I don't want to be here, you know, what's the point, you know, life's hard, all that hasn't had that shifted, right? It can shift a little bit or it can shift a lot. Mental health. What creates mental health? So I guess all of this power over, power with, right? We can tell you, right? And direct you. Or we can walk with you. You know? It's like connecting. There's an intimacy for another human being. It's at that level, right? And there is a strength in that, but it's not a power over. It's not like I am better than you in some way because my life's not like yours. So I must be better. So do it my way and you'll be better. Right? Or whatever words you like, we all do it. So I know I'm just saying how it is. You're a human being, you do it in some way. If I can, if you think you don't, come talk to me and I'll show you. I'll find it. We all do it. We all do it. It's just being aware of it and noticing, oh, okay. All right. So even some of the stuff I've talked to you about, like even the what I had for breakfast and stuff like that, right? How that comes across. Is it purely a sharing, or is it, oh, I've got all my, I don't want to swear today, right? I've got it all together. And I don't have it all together. I'm a human. I don't have it all together. Right? So I walk with you and I share my life with you. That's it. You share your life with me if you're game. A lot of you aren't. I mean, I say that jokingly. I just mean because it's I guess it's a public forum, right? But ask questions. Ask questions. All right. So where was I going to go today? Power, power over, power with, walking with. Where I got to, translation. So how I would work with the population, the homeless population, right? Or not housed, I think they say in America. This is a strange way of saying, or a different way of saying it, in different places. But I'd hear their story. I would live their stories with them, right? And then I would go to government offices and sit with all these men in suits And I was like 20 something, right? Translating back and forth what they would tell me, I would take back to the field. What the field would tell me, I take back to it, right? Why? Because we're trying to get, we were getting, and we did get a lot of shifts and changes in Indigenous housing, right? But not to the point. Yeah, it's, I don't even know what it is now, but you know, anyway, I don't want to go too far into that, but there was a lot of reasons. So people say, oh, why are they homeless? Or you give a family a home and they just trash it. So stuff them, right? That's the attitude. And a lot of you will have that too. But when you look at why the family is homeless, what is the root cause? And that's what I do with your energy. Why are you, what's the root cause of your concern? Because people will say, well, why don't you just eat right? You'll be fine. Or why don't you just do this energy medicine? You'll be fine. Or why don't you just start exercising or whatever? What's the root cause? Because I'm telling you, I can get your energy aligned. Depends what aspect of the energy. What happens? If you haven't sorted out, unless it's I mean, some is, you know, there are miracles, and we've had some lately. We've had a lot lately. I don't want to tell you too much, but you can see how it's all the same work. For me, it's all the same. It doesn't matter whether it's a physical, like, okay, why is a person have an addiction, right? Because people on the street or in the bush, under bridges, whatever, they may have an addiction, or they may have a mental health problem, or they can't get a job because of, you know, there's all these cycles, right? Of, okay, well, they're you know, what they're wearing or how they look, right? Or there's disabilities, or they can't read or write. You know, there's all of these different things. In Australia, it's generational systemic abuse. I did massive artworks. People used to walk into these rooms and just cry because I was in your face. I was in your face, right? Generational abuse. You take children away from their primary caregivers, their culture, their everything that they are, and then you take the land away. And even later, when they feel like they're sorry and they're trying to help, you can't, but there's no land to go back to. It's a mine site, or it's a supermarket, or it's a whatever. In your country, you tell me, in your country, what goes on, right? So this is what we're dealing with. This is what we are dealing with. So my background, I'm an anthropologist too, so this sort of makes sense, right? So all the things that I trained in came together: trauma, the social change, you know, so all the legal stuff and, you know, the rights of every human and all the systems, but also cultural anthropology, societal medical anthropology, right? Why do humans do what they do? Why do we do what we do? Why are we the way we are, right? Always my question. From like 6 or 7 years old, I would look out and go, why is that person doing that to that person? Why are you hurting that animal? I couldn't comprehend why people did what they did. So I started to look at everything I do is about that. Why do I do what I do? How I am, how I are, the frequency out into the world, what choices I make, at what point in time, reflecting, conscious. How conscious can I be? It's like every day, how conscious am I today? So you don't even know if you're not conscious. So that's a hard question, right? Because you only know as conscious as you are. And when you get a little bit more, it's like you think you love. You think you love. I'm in love with that person. And then the next day it feels like there's more. And you're like, oh, well, there's more. Like, how can there be more love? Right? It's infinite. But your consciousness is infinite too, is what I'm getting at, I guess. Okay. But you don't know that until you get to the next point and you look back or down or up or wherever, however you see it, and go, oh, wow. So some of you know that I've been coming back to the teachings that I taught 10 years ago, or probably 15 years ago now, right? Bringing in the last few weeks, bringing in some of those teachings because I've taught it for so long, but none of you knew me then, right? Most of it was in person. We didn't do this online stuff. It was in person. And so I start talking about things and you're like, what on earth is she talking about? Oh, okay. So I get to look at it now from where I am, because I'm not where I was 15 years ago or 10 years ago or even 5 years ago, right? So I'm going to put this out because I hear it a lot. I've done that. Or I've been working on myself for years. Really? Have you? Great. So you should. And continue for years and years and years and years, right? It's never freaking ending. I'm sorry, people. Keep going. Walk together. Just keep walking. Just keep walking. Don't power over. Don't go, oh, well, I've done that work. I've got all my stuff in one sock, as we say in Australia. I'm determined not to swear today. I so want to, right? So just from what I've said, you could probably put together, if you are from any of those areas, that I was quite political, let's just say, right? I was an advocate. I was an Indigenous advocate. I was an advocate in different areas, you know, meaning that when shit hit the fan, they would call me and I'd be out there supporting people, walking with them so that they could get the result that they wanted. I wasn't fighting their fight for them. Power with, power with, power with, not power over. I'm not going to fight your fight. I'm not going to fight your cancer. I'm not going to fight your chronic health. I'm not going to fight your fear. I'm going to walk with you. I'm going to walk with you. Do you have any questions about that, like the power over power with, or like how that's relevant in your life, your everyday life? When we're working with physical health, let's say physical health, and there's a lot of you that have been diagnosed with something pretty serious, right? It's a lot of you. There's a bunch of you that I'm you know, I take you into circle. And there's some of you that I'm specifically working with. I remember actually Circling Grace. I'm going to honor my friend who's passed now, but she's the reason that Circling Grace started, because she was experiencing cancer. She had a myriad of other things as well, multiple complex life, and amazing, powerful spiritual woman. And some of you may question that, in like, why her, right? And I saw she was asking for, I can't remember exactly now. She was asking for some sort of help just on her online, through her, you know, friends and stuff. And I reached out to her and I told her what I was doing and what I could do with her, which I said, I do not work with the cancer cells. I do not work with the symptom. I do not work with the diagnosis. When I was trauma therapist and you know, you've heard these stories that they'd come to me with these files on children, small children, 3, 4, 5 years old. And they would have, I call it the alphabet of diagnosis. And they would say, oh, do you want to see the file? And I'd say, no, I want to meet the child. And I'd go, this is why I did play therapy and art therapy and that sort of stuff, because I would go and meet the child. I don't care. Don't give me the alphabet, because the alphabet isn't the child. Help me build and be with the child. Get to know who the child is, the energetics, the history of the energetics, right? Through the child. And I'm telling you, the healing that happened, the miraculous healing that happened, had nothing to do with what is in their file. And I'm saying the same for you too. The behavior comes from the energetics. It follows, the physicality follows the energy, right? The translation. That little boy, for instance, where does he want to be loved? What's not being loved within him? Well, he was given up by his parents for a start. Okay, so how does a child reconcile or come to terms with their parents not loving them? Or most of them that I've worked with, their parents harming them. Their parents harming them. Is that love? Some of you have that too, hardwired in you through your beliefs and conditioning patterns. If they're the people that loved me and that was the experience, well, that must be love. And I talked about this last week, I believe, about I was watching a show and this young woman grew up with extremely abusive father. And then she ends up in her, I think she was 18 or 19, and she met this really awesome guy, but she couldn't be with him. He was too nice. Have you heard that story? Have you seen it in your friends, in yourself? Too nice, too nice. He's a good man. He's a good man, right? Apparently, that's what the community say. He's a good man. She was drawn to this other guy. It wasn't long. It's the same pattern as her dad. Same pattern as her dad. She was comfortable with that. So it's not even love, but what we think is love. We get told, I love you, smack, or I love you. I'm sorry if this triggers any of you. I always say, have your 5 people of support, right? I can be one of them. You can message me if this brings up anything, or just a lot of you, I say, if you just want to be witnessed, you can direct message me, and I read everything. It's not necessarily I'm going to give you advice or anything. I may, but a lot of people just want to be witnessed, right? They want somebody else to hear their story. So if it brings up anything like that, and if it does trigger you, which probably does, just even what I'm talking about, it could trigger you, or bring some of your past of like, oh yeah, I identify with that. Oh, okay, then what does that mean, right? Because in our conscious evolution, what we're doing is, so Simran, which is my Simran Ishnan Kaur is my spiritual name, which means, for some of you that don't know, the cleanser of karma through the remembrance of God. Right? So through the remembrance, we're clearing, cleansing, shifting, right? Identifying, being more conscious around our fears, so that we can not push them away, not pretend they don't exist, not behave them out, not project them onto other people. Find more conscious ways of processing and integrating. right? Because when we have that, it's like life is fear. It's fear, fear, fear of love. Love and fear is just your positive and negative mind into the neutral mind, right? So anyway, I won't go into that. That's a class. But the merging of the minds, the three minds, into supreme intelligence is a very high consciousness. So one mind is sort of saying, you know, danger, danger, danger. And the other one is saying, oh, look at that. Yeah, we can work it through that, right? Positive, negative. Either one of those, if you're in there, is an end of the spectrum, is a, you know, either end. So what you want to do is recognize them so that you can work on it from that center space where it all exists, both love and fear. You are all of that. And many try to shift from a negative to a positive, which is just a charge, a plus to a minus or a minus to a plus. But there's the center pole, the neutral pole, the neutral mind, but there's also the neutral pole within the system. It's polarity, positive, negative, neutral. It's the, I'm just looking at the PowerPoint here, right? Positive, negative, neutral, earth, the earthing. And you can't get your spiritual development without working, not working, that's not the right word, without acknowledging the neutral path, right? Which is all of it. Is being able to sit and see the whole picture at the same time, right? So there's levels of, you could say consciousness, or you could say the worlds, right? Some of you have done the training on the Rise to the Rose, right? Those stages of development where those ways that you see the world and interact with the world, right? That lower world, right? This sort of, you know, we could say it's the lower three chakras, but it doesn't completely line up with that. But the lower three are our real physical world, right? And that's that real, when you're in your fear of fear, or you're in your fear of love. So fear of love is like your fear of your greatness, your magnificence, or your success, or your, you know, those sorts of things, right? Or you've met somebody, or you got the job, and then you're like, oh, I got my dream job, and it's like, and you might even get sick. Has that ever happened? Or something happened? Like it's almost like an unconscious sort of sabotage. Not really, but you know, there's an energy there, right? So those lower worlds, you're only in one or the other. You can't see that there's anything else, and that's why there's a spiral. It's like going into that dark of the dark, what I call, right? So you've got the in another language, more sort of mystic language. It's, you know, I feel more at home with is the feminine, right? Or the mother, or the Eve, Hava, right? And then the shadow of her. So we've got the dark, which is just life here from the fall, the dark, right? And then we've got the dark, the shadow in the corner of a dark room, the dark. That's the spiral. And so we get scared, we have fear about that, and then we spiral in again, and spiral in again, and spiral in again. And all we can see is that, right? When we get to that next level, we know, oh, we're in fear, but there is some love there, and we're not spiraling, because fear and love just are. It's when we loop into it right? It's like, oh, there's the possibility of having pain, and then we fear the pain. There's no fact there. There's no facts. Do you see what I mean? It's like a future projection of, oh, that could hurt or that could be uncomfortable. So here in the present, nothing's happened. It's just you. Right? You with me or not? So when you're at this next level, you know there's fear. So when you're in fear, you go, oh, I'm in fear. All right, well, I know there's another side of it because it's polarity, right? But sometimes you're not quite clear enough of how to get there. And this is pretty common. This is majority of you that would be watching this, I would say, right? And so in the teachings, we talk about paradox a lot, right? It's a paradox. And when the brain can get, when our minds can merge, three minds merge into supreme intelligence, that's the next level. But when our mind can hold that there's these two opposites at the same time, in psychology, we might call it cognitive dissonance, right? There's two different pieces of information and the brain starts going, whoa. It's like a disrupt. I love a good disruption, right? It's almost like the brain needs to, all the, aspects of you as a mind need that little disruption. Okay. But you understand that there's these aspects. And I say that the quicker that field goes, it's like when in the old what are they called? The little films. There's an old one of the horse running. Do you remember that one? It was like one of the old, I think it was the first or second sort of moving picture or something like that. Anyway, it's in museums. But I think it's 33 bits per minute or something like that. I forget now. I used to know all that stuff. But how fast that film is going to see the horse moving. So it's like moving your love and fear so quick that it looks like it's just one. Do you understand? Does it make sense? I'm trying to give you a moving analogy in it. Let me just check these if there's any comments or questions. No, none there. All right. So I guess the point of this is saying that the next level is when you're in your fear and you see the most light. And this is why for, I reckon, 10 years, you probably be able to find it in the archives, done lessons, I've talked about there's more light in the darkness. There's more light in the darkness. Well, when you experience it directly, you won't need to ask that. But until then, and some of you might be, it is about, and last week I talked about the candle and the flame. So there's a hint as well. So some of you are nodding, right? Did you do your candle practice? Did you practice? Yes, you did. Oh, it makes my heart warm. Good, good, good. So as I said that, I saw you both nod. I can't see others on the other forums, but the people that I can see here, I saw you both nod when I said there's more light in the darkness, and connecting it to the candle, because we're talking about that blue and black, right? And how that brings more light down, the concealed light, right? So again, it might be code for some of you. If you don't understand, ask, and I'm happy to extrapolate pieces. Or even if you watch the replay, you're not sure on the questions, or you're not sure if you got what I meant. Because when I say things like that, there's multiple understandings of it. So again, feel free to, on Facebook, on Instagram, on if you're here on any of the, on YouTube, some might be watching on YouTube, to ask questions, and I can bring it in again from a different direction or a different angle, because there's multiple perspectives. I was talking, who was I talking? I can't remember if it was in a class or if it was in a live or if it was to somebody, just a normal human, about perspectives and how we see and how we project, literally as a projector, our beliefs and conditioning patterns that are behind us, that are going through our back chakras, right? And how they hold that information. I think it was last week I mentioned this, but anyway, and how in every chakra there's information stored, right? But back and front. So the back is feeding, but what's feeding the back? There's even higher, more advanced energetics that are feeding into that. And so some of you might have heard me talk about the vortices, which are more evolved energy systems, and they feed into the chakras. But that's another story. So back to the chakras. That information is then projected through. It's like putting the film, the canister, you know, the old days, the canister into the, so some of you that are, you know, maybe only 20 or something, you may not know this, but it used to be like canisters. And you stick it on the projector and you pull the film out and it goes through, right? That's the back chakra, right? And the light in the center and then projects out. That's just on one level. But all of them are doing that, creating your field, creating your direct experience, right? That's just one way of speaking about that. So if you think, oh, it's just one chakra or one part of the energy system doing that, it's not. They all work together. If that projector, only has, has a leg missing or isn't plugged in, or I don't know, it might be a windy one, whatever. There's all these different conditions. If it's that film can melt and catch on fire, right? So it has to be kept in a cool environment, all of those things. And you are, oh my God, you are like the human. We were thinking about this last night, that what the human does, all the little bits and pieces that it does, without you even saying or doing anything, just laying there, the amount of energy, right, that you consume just to function, let alone move an arm or a leg, right? Amazing beings, creatures. So what are we projecting in our reality? What are we, and that's the unconscious stuff. And now I'm talking about, okay, well, when we have a fear, which are all sort of there, they're all your imprints from early childhood, right? Some can be before, right? We could go ancestral trauma, all of that, but you can work on that. Whatever you're doing today, every day, is working on all your past ancestral trauma. Do you understand? If you work on yours, you're working on everybody's, because yours is everybody's. So, you could say, oh, that was in a past life, if you're into that, or that was an ancestor, that was 5 generations back on the father's side, and I can scan all that. I can do all that for you if you want. But it's going to, we want to know, and you can know. I guess I shouldn't say that, right? If you want to know, you can know. What I'm saying is, if every moment, every day that you're working on what's showing up for you, then all the rest doesn't matter. That's why I don't do all the different stuff I used to do. Because I say, what's the best way I could assist humanity? It's the best way I can assist humanity. And it was to work on myself, because what I'm projecting into the world, I'm part of the collective. And so then if we're all doing that, so it's nothing new to that, that's old school, right? But it's still how it works. So if you really want to make a change, or in your relationships, what's going on in you? How is that showing up? In your field, everything in your field is showing you how much you love or how much you don't love yourself. It's the same thing. It's just showing you how much, right? It just depends what goggles you got on. You look out there and go, oh, beautiful yellow flowers, you know, or you can go, oh, I hate those flowers, they're weeds. Hey, Rebel, weeds. You should see my weed garden now. Not that weed, my yellow flower weed garden. They're huge and I love them. They make me happy, right? And my landlord, he would pull them out and poison them. So I made a garden, and I didn't say anything. I just made the garden and I put the rocks around it, and he leaves them. So they're like, 3 foot tall now, these yellow flowers. But my point being, what's weed to one person is a beautiful garden to another. How are you looking at the world? I said this the other day, right? What goggles do you have on? What glasses do you have on? What perspective are you looking from? Or are you looking from all? So that analogy, right, for all the chakras, all the main ones, the main 7, I work with more, but they're the main projectors, right? They all work together. So that's what I'm talking about when, you've got your positive, negative, or your masculine, feminine, or your, love, fear, right? And merging them into one. Just meaning that when you look at something, right, you can see it clear. Or from your true power, where you truly are. Because there's also this is a whole nother thing, but I'll bring it in a little bit. I believe I mentioned this last week too, so it seems to be a bit of a theme that I've noticed, and I talk about that when we shift our state, often our tone or the other aspect of ourself hasn't shifted too, because we've got this behavioral pattern happening. And so we've aligned the energetics, and your frequency is high. See, I don't know who needs to know this, because it's a fallacy. The point, so hold that point. Someone hold that point for me, because I'll probably forget, but I want to say this. I remember I went out to dinner with some friends years and years ago, and my friend's partner asked me a question about, why are some seers or, mediums, trance, so all of these different ways of knowing, if they have these abilities, why do they seem asleep, right? Or not conscious? And so this might be new to you, right? You can see and have those abilities and not be conscious, not be as conscious as you would think, right? And this is why I ran the programs, Intuitive Studies. Everybody in that program could contact spirit. It didn't mean they were fully conscious in a conscious evolution, right? Because we have the ability, we have our sensory system, and we just need to fine tune it. That doesn't necessarily mean that that's conscious evolution. That's conscious creative evolution, that we're evolving the human. We are, to a degree, because we're turning on dormant sensory systems, right? Multidimensional senses, so that you can talk to grandma or grandpa or somebody's past loved one, or your dog or cat or your fish. Fishes come through, guinea pig, like little critters, they come through, I'm telling you. Amazing. Even cars, not that they actually come through, but they come through with the people. You know, stuff comes through, right? And this is the point. The mystic goes direct. And you get all the other, right? Or you can work from the bottom and move yourself up. And, you know, my teacher told me, he would say, you know, well, these are my words, but, you know, I'm paraphrasing. You know, what your abilities are, what your siddhi or shakti powers are along the way are just that. You're building. So there's a lot of things that, so I was going to answer some of your questions, you know who you are, right? But some of those are those powers that, as we move through and we build our energy systems, right, we're able to transmit, transceive, so what's the word? Receive and transmit, transceive, I call it, receive and transmit, right? More and more and more and more and more. So what you can do now, or what you could do, some of you 5 months ago, to what you can do now, if you looked at that with clear eye, right, you would see your development. And so as you continue on your path of, if you know, I'm assuming if you're watching, you're on some sort of conscious evolution or mystic path, that there are particular things, and I say it's like, you know, getting on a train, a long haul train or a long haul flight, and it's like all the different things you see when you look out the window of the train. And the yogis say, so my teacher would say, you know, don't get caught in the view, don't get caught in the what's the word? Distractions, right? So even when I'm teaching you trance or mediumship or accessing the cache, all of those things, I teach it in a way so that you're not power over. I teach it in a way that it's just another view out the window, and continue to work towards the ultimate destination. Yeah? Those of you that have worked with me, you know that. It's never the main show. The main show is direct access to the beloved. End of story. And so we can work on just going direct, which is the mystic path, or we can work on building, or you can do both. So going back to, did any of you take note on where I said to take note? Because I'm going to come back to it, because I would forget. Did I? I think I covered it anyway, but there was something about the transceiving. Anyway, all right. So where are we? It's 10:30 now. Let me just check the chats, the ones that I can see. Are there any questions on or comments on what I've just said, or anything that needs tidying up? I hope you can see. So I'm a practical mystic, right? So what I wanted to show, I guess, I didn't plan it, but looking back on what I've said, is that everything in our physicality, in our field, in our interaction with another human or a sentient being, can be, it's the macro and micro, right? So how I work now is exactly the same. It's exactly the same. There's no difference. So how I cut my teeth was in very much the physical, working with extreme traumatic experiences, blood and guts and death and injury and maiming and horrificness, right? In your face, people hurting people. And now it's subtle. But is it still people hurting people? Oh, yes, thanks. Aligned energy, high frequency, but we haven't integrated, so we continue with previous habits. Yes. Thank you. So how then, and if we bring it in even more, the individual and how they are in the world impacts how they are in the world. So what your relationship is with love and fear, right? When there's fear, it's just like, for instance, I guess I can tell you. I didn't ask. Anyway, Eric had an accident, and it wasn't nice. It's pretty serious, right? So there's fear. So he's in hospital, but he's at work today, so he's good because we I healed him. But my point being, anyway, he's got 8 staples in his head. But when he messaged to say he's in the ER and he's got 8 staples in his head, and that's all he told me, I was like, there was some fear there, right? And then there was okay, so identifying the fear. So I'm just I don't want you to worry about him. He's good. And I think he'll be on this afternoon. We'll see how he goes today. It's his first day back at work. So we'll see. Maybe I can come on and read for him and he can explain it. We'll see how his energy is. But just for those of you that do, attend his Jedi training or Jedi temple. So that's just, that's fear. It's like but fear of what? Right? Well, that would be dependent on what you're programmed in some way. Do you see what I mean? So I knew he was all right. My fear went to I didn't want him to drive home. That's where my fear went. Not just for him. I didn't want him to kill anybody. I'm so, I got to laugh because I'm so like, boom, 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 because I'm used to crisis, right? That my life has been helping people in crisis, right? So I go, all right, you might feel all right to drive, but it's not about you. Do you see where I'm going? It's like when people are, used to drink drive. It's like, it's not about you. It's who you might hit or what you might hit. That's what I'm worried about. Like, you're good. You make that decision for yourself. But what about other people? Right? So anyway, he was good. He was, that's where I was like, are you safe to drive? Yes. But because if you start getting dizzy or whatever, you might swerve and hit somebody and cause an accident or whatever, right? So you might not be worried about yourself. Okay, let's put that aside. What about other people? Are you going to take responsibility for the other people that are around you, right? Most people don't. I'm just saying, I'm just putting it out there. Think about it, right? Because you go, oh, yeah, I'm all right. Yeah, okay, well, it's not all about you right now, right? But what about other people? Right, it is about you because it's what you're projecting, you know, it's what's going on. But in that moment, so anyway, there's fear. And when you're conscious, oh, okay, there's fear, it doesn't spiral. And if it does, it doesn't spiral as deep. So it's like, okay, there's fear. What's my fear? My fear of this or this. Like, what is the trigger, right? Why, you know, what's the charge on it? And how can I process that, right? So there's a million different ways to process. But being conscious of, oh, I feel it in my body. There's fear here. Okay. Well, what we don't do, or what we do more likely is something happens and we go into the story, and it's like an aspect of our soul, because this is sort of what happens. It's an aspect of our soul, our energy, our essence, energy goes to where that person is. So when you think about somebody, it's an aspect of you. And this is why we can do distance healing and remote work, right? How I can link into your energy, and how you could link into mine, if you know what I mean, like all of that, or how we can link into other aspects of information in our field, which, you know, that's what a lot of people are doing when they're reading you, right? They're reading the information in your field. So I guess that's the core of most of it. You're consciously aware of the fear. The fear of fear. There's just the love and the fear. Oh, I feel love. Okay, I'm conscious that I'm feeling something in my physical, right? In my nervous system. There's a felt sense in the body. Oh, okay, I'm aware of that. So when you've numbed, and this is where the trauma work comes in, you know, aspects of the, you know, the sensory motor stuff comes in, is because we're not aware of what we're feeling. And so in those programs, even if I'm teaching you how to pretty much just rate how you are today. So I'd say, how are you? Right? Go into the system, go into the body and just feel. Do you feel your body? Is there any aspect of yourself that is talking to you? Right? Oh, my right or left arm is tight, or my neck, or my tooth aches, or I don't know, I can feel my little toe, or whatever it is. Is it tight? Does it feel good? Does it feel uncomfortable? What is it? And then make contact with it. But most of us, and this is how we survive, so it's not necessarily a bad thing or a good thing, it just is. But how we survive these behaviors where we to go through, so just say you've got a headache and you go to work and you get busy, and then you can't feel your headache because you're busy, but your headache hasn't gone away. Or there's points. So just go under your collarbone. So you've got those bones here, and just drop down like a finger, you know. Like most of you will have like a little knot, little dent, or a little dip. And if you pretty firmly push and rub, some of you wouldn't have felt that they're tender or hurt until you pushed them. Anybody's this is kidney 27, 27th point in the kidney meridian, right? You can just sort of give it a little And people used to say to me, oh, it's just because we're rubbing it, it hurts. All right. Right. So if yours hurt, slip your fingers on it for a start, just in case the polarity's out. And then you can either thump them or rub them. If they're really, really sore, you can just hold them. Some people are so sore that they can't touch them. Right? Now, if they are sore, you're probably really tired, or you have issues with your with lethargy, right? Because this is your life force energy. Okay. And the bottom of it is the sole of the foot, kidney 1, that kidney 1 point. So I would do the bottom of your foot as well. But my point being, so that's your whole kidney meridian, right? Kidney meridian is life force. It's also fear. It's also fear. It's also hope. Right? It's also how we connect to the earth. So if that's, at the feet, it's not really flowing well, then your earthing will be off. And so on and so forth, because everything links to everything else, right? But my point there was, and that's just one, maybe yours didn't hurt, we could find another one. We could go, so if you're a woman, or if you're a man, if you wore a bra, where your bra strap would be, just under your armpit, right? Sort of, and rub around, and you might find a sore spot there, right? So you find a sore spot. Mine tend to not hurt there if this one's out. It tends to hurt at the front. But most people will get, it's like if you put your arm out straight and then put your thumb, and sort of where the thumb falls, around there. You can just sort of massage around. Let me know if it's tender. That's a spleen energy point, spleen 21. And so our stress response pulls, so triple warmer is the yang energy, the masculine energetic arm of the nervous system, will pull when we're stressed, and you all are, because life is stressed these days, right? People say to me, I'm not stressed. Really? Really? You're not stressed? All right. So the cool or the heat or not enough sleep or not eating well or whatever, there's a stressor. That's why we have subliminal stress, the invisible shadow, because what's impacting you, you have no idea. The EMFs, the shifts in the space weather, all of it, what's happening on the planet, what's happening in the planet, earthquakes, volcanoes, tsunamis, wind, blah, blah, blah. I could go on and on and on. Invisible frequency, the frequency from your neighbors, whatever they're doing, hitting you. Anyway, don't worry about that. Don't go into fear, because when you align your energetics, you neutralize it. That's why we have this positive, negative, neutral. There's a neutralizing factor. When we work our energies in a particular way, then anything we neutralize it. Okay. So, well, where was I going with that? Oh, so that stress response is pulling from spleen, which makes spleen, that's not the organ spleen, the energy associated with the spleen meridian depletes, because that stress response is taking fuel from that. It's the first place it takes fuel from, right? So most people, not everybody, because I scan, there's certain people I work with, I scan their energy 5 times a week, like every weekday, and document it and make graphs and stuff. And they get into a pattern where that spleen is starting to not be impacted. So it's interesting then what the pattern is. But anyway, I'll maybe talk about that another day. So over time, I see different patterns in the human system, how it plays out in response to stress. Right? So kidney generally is, or the energy associated with kidney meridian is usually implicated in health issues because of the earthing. So when we get stressed, right, that level of energy to get us into one of the F's, fight, flight, freeze, feign, you know, all the other F's they have now, right? Feign death and whatnot. When that's impacted, our ability to earth, so it impacts our aura basically, and our ability to earth. And so you'll see it in someone's field when their aura, when they have something going on, because it's all intricately connected, right? So you could look at, okay, well, what's going on with the energy associated with kidney meridian, right? Which links to your essence. So we could call it your there's postnatal and prenatal essence. So what you're born with, which comes through your parents and ancestors, what you're born with. But also postnatal is what most of us are working with, right? What we eat, what our lifestyle is, and all those things will determine that. So you can build to a degree your postnatal essence, but you can't build apparently, and I'm yet to see it. So I'm going to go with you can't. I don't like to say you can't. There's always a hope, right? But your prenatal essence, what you're born with, is your breaths, how many breaths, and all the rest of it. And once that's up, you leave this body, right? And you move on. But you could be born with low, so don't worry. I just need to say this in case some of you are going, oh, no, because you may not have had, your mother may not have had a great pregnancy, or how she got pregnant may have impacted that, trauma and whatnot. Or there may have been addictions, may have been illness, all of these sorts of things on both parents, right? Because their essence coming together, right, determines the baby's essence. And what the pregnancy is like determines that too, right? So if you, your mum, your parents weren't healthy, weren't on top of their stuff, or whatever, no judgment. It's just how it is, what it was. And then you're born with maybe 50% essence, and someone else is born with 80. I give this example so that you don't go into fear, because there's nothing to fear. It just is. It's like going, okay, well, I might have been born with 80% or 90% even, who knows, right? Or I could have been the one born with 30% essence or 50% essence. But I use 100% of my 50% essence. And you were born with 80%, but you only use 30% of your 80%. Do you see? You're not utilizing what you have. And utilizing what you have would be your lifestyle, how you are in the world. So it doesn't matter really what the essence is. Your essence is your essence. And then how you are in the world adds to that essence, assists the vitality of, your wellness and how you are in the world, and how you, you're aring, how you're received in the world, how your frequency, distributes. So So did you have, so does our prenatal essence get used up if we don't use it properly? Yeah, it gets used up. Like the way that essence gets used up, and this is why, you know, there's Tantra and all of that too, is, you know, you can lose it through, so addictions and things like that, right? Health, ejaculation. That's why, you know, people do Tantra and stuff, so that they're not, you know, there's nothing wrong with that. It's just knowing that you like, there's life force that's moving. So I wouldn't worry about it. It's part of me that's like, oh, why did I mention that? Because, you know, so if there are questions, but I wouldn't worry about it, because, you know, we're here for the amount of time that we're here. And that is, you know, there's a, hang on, wait for the motorbike to go past. And, you know, we're it's almost like we're just window shopping anyway, right? We're just like trying on this dress or this suit, and then we'll move on and do our real work. But, you know, I don't want to tell you what to believe. I'm just telling you what, you know, just sharing, and you can take it or leave it, or add it to your bag to ponder later. So there's a lot of things you can do. So a lot of the kidney work, building, there's exercises building the essence, which is breath work and movement. Like if you're doing Tai Chi, so some of you do Tai Chi and Qigong and yoga and lots of different stuff. I did prenatal yoga with both my girls. Like, even though I didn't even know about this, but somewhere in me I must have, because I was very, very young. And I did it out of a book. I got a book and I did it every day. I did yoga. And you know, so don't worry about what you're born with. If anything, if you're pregnant or choose, you know, that you're going to be pregnant, look into how to build your essence in the pregnancy. Because what you already are is what you already are, right? So now look at lifestyle. Okay, well, what is life-giving and what's life-taking? If I'm going to have habits, which you all are, because we're human, and that stress response governs our habits, right? Triple warmer. So you're going to have habits, but you can choose consciously what ones you're going to have, right? Are they going to be life-giving or life-taking? Meaning, are they going to be, see, I don't want to say, because I don't want to, you know, be judgy. Right? So you got to look at that yourself. Is what I'm doing building life, or is it some way depleting? Right? Is it and you can it doesn't matter what you do as long as you're conscious of it, right? You know, and again, because I was going to say what I had for dinner last night, which to me isn't necessarily what I want to eat, but it was good. So I was like, I'm choosing to eat it, right? But it's just because of how I like to eat. So majority of you would eat this food, and that's why I'm not even going to say it. And it's not bad food necessarily. It's just not what I would consciously choose for my everyday. It's not, right? Because it's starchy. But it was awesome. It was good. Right? So it's like, oh, well, you know, it's like Donna Eden used to say, She probably still does to some degree. Should have that, like, what would she say? She'd say she wants that banana split, that chocolate fudge banana split, right? It should just love it. Should just love it. Should eat it and love it. If you're eating that banana split for every meal every day, well, you know, I think you're going to have to be Moses or someone to get around that one. But I don't know. I don't know how powerful you are with your, you know, your love, right? But if you have been working on your development, I'm going to say, and can get to a place of like ananda, like love, bliss, that those places, then you can neutralize stuff. You can, right? And some more than others. Like I've been looking at how the shifts I can make. I can only make it so much for somebody else, because what they believe and what they want and how they are in the world is just, do you know what I mean? It's like some people will get a miraculous, and that will be enough for them to not go back to the habits that they had, or the behaviors that they had, or the, finally working through the beliefs and conditioning patterns that are encoded, right? That keep coming up to be looked at. So it's not judging them. So anyway, I was going to go into scriptures, but I think I'll leave that for another day, because, why were some people healed and some people weren't, and how they were, right? That's all I was going to say. I was just going to name some things, and there are reasons, and there are, explanations to a point. And I look at that when I'm working with somebody and like, okay, why is that moving that way or doing that? What else is going on for that person? What else needs to be identified for that to be able to hold, right? Because you can move it. Okay. And then they wake up, get out of bed and do the same old behaviors, same old patterns. So it takes a lot of refining those. Do you get what I mean? It was like when I used to smoke when I was in the army, believe it or not. And I played a lot of sport and had to run, 5K in so many minutes, and, pass all my fitness tests and stuff. And I was like the fastest woman, right? But it was the infantry battalion, so there wasn't many women anyway. But point was that, I was fit, but I smoked, and I used to have a cigarette and a lighter in my bra. And before I did a run, I kid you not, I would have a cigarette. I'd be waiting to start this 5K run, and I'd have a cigarette, and I would say, I was a smart ass. And I'm not, I'm just, I know who I was. I know that, I have this edge to me that if somebody tells me to do something, I'll say, I just won't do it. It's like this authority thing. It comes from my childhood, right? Being that independent and everything. But anyway, I know my attachment, my trauma. Intimately, I know my trauma. So, But I would say when I can't pass my test, I'll give up. And I could always pass my test and more. Right? Yeah, I was a heavy smoker when I was young. I started really young. My brother helped me. My older brother. God love him. Anyway, I don't smoke. I haven't smoked for 20 odd years now. But point is, some of you will have things like that. you know. Oh, I'm going to keep eating this because it hasn't affected me yet. Yeah, that's okay. And maybe it won't. I used to say to my ex, because he smoked and had a really bad diet, and I'd say, you might survive, and you probably will. But I'd say to him, I'm not pushing your oxygen tank around, right? You know what I mean? Like, do what you want. You may survive, but at what cost? At what cost? So will you be in an iron lung? Will you be having oxygen tank? Will you have to have a lung removed? Will you have to have your throat removed and speak through a hole? Will you, which I know 2 people. Do you understand? Anyway, I'm a bit graphic today. I want you to choose. That's why I want you to choose. And as I'm talking to you, I'm talking to myself. So, you know, as I'm speaking, I'm not like, don't underestimate that I'm not listening to myself, to the self, right? Because she's speaking to us all. And I'll be like, okay, all right, well, where can I refine? I say it's refinement because it's like just these little pieces, refine, refine, refine. You know, it might just be one little thing. Okay, well, what's going on for you in this point in time? What's the one thing that if you could shift would make a difference in your life? What would that be? And then write it down. Just write it down. You could tell me if you want, or just write it down for yourself. What is the one thing that if you could get some change or shift or perspective would make change in your life that you would welcome, that you would be over the moon? And what would that change be? So maybe it's in a relationship, in a job, in health, in wellness, in movement, in finances, or whatever. But what is it, and what change would that make? And be conscious of that. Just have it, because if you're not, so in inside we have in that program, it's very specific, and we're tracking things like this because there's no point just talking about it and hoping that it happens. I'm like, no, there's your evidence, whether you reached it or not. And if you didn't reach it, why didn't you reach it? What's happening? What's happening in your system? What fears are coming up? What behaviors are, like all of it. Why you reached it? Why you didn't? And if you didn't, put it through again. Okay, so this week, in this next week, these are what you're conscious of. Because if you're in a program, right, it's like every week they're working on something. We're working together, we're working on something. You can do the same. You may not be in a program. You may not have a mentor or a coach or a therapist or a whatever, or a best friend that gives you good advice. Most of them don't, right? Just saying. You know, seek first. I say seek first, seek first, seek first, right? But yeah, what's one thing that you could choose to be more conscious of today in this moment? And why would that matter? What would it shift or change in your life? Right? So as a business coach, it's a similar thing. You'd be saying, well, what's the why? What's the why? But in your health and wellness, what's the why? Why does it matter? Why does it matter? You're not going to do a darn thing if it doesn't matter to you. This is the thing. I don't have money's not a motivator to me, never has been. And that's why can be really difficult to get me to do stuff, because I just don't care enough about it. Right? It's the truth. I'm conscious of that. So what I have to do to plan anything that, is, outside of, my general day is who will that impact and how? Why does it matter? How is that going to make the world any different? Do you see? Because you could give me money, but what am I going to buy? What am I going to buy? I don't care enough about it. That's just me. So some of you spiritual entrepreneurs may be the same, right? So the currency for me is you, right? How can that impact and make a better human species, right? I have grandchildren. Why does it matter? Because I have grandchildren. I have children and I have grandchildren, right? Why does it matter to me what you all do? Because of the next generations. What's the legacy? What's the legacy? It's not going to be houses. It's not going to be cars. It's not going to be like wealth in that way, although it can be. It's just how, if you think like that, like me, it's about shifting how can financial success, whatever that means, like having wealth, assist in your mission. That's what it has to be, because the material stuff doesn't matter enough. So you got to find your why. If you don't have a strong enough why, you won't do it. So just saying to me, oh, that'll make you money, like, oh, maybe I could buy my mum a house, or, support away, right? It's just stuff. It's just stuff. I just got the message that majority of you aren't like me, so that's all right. In the way, shopping and stuff like that. And that's okay. And I say to Eric all the time, like, the majority of people don't want our life. So, and that's okay. Because you really don't. You don't. Let me know if you do, but most of you don't. Pretty sure most of you don't. And that's not, I'm not being, I'm just being true. I just don't think that some of you will. Some of you will. But it's a simple life, right? It's a simple life. It's a very simple life. Simple is good, yeah. It's what we want, but what we want is simple. It is going to change soon, so we'll just see. But that's because of the mission, right? And then I'll have to renegotiate the why, right? Because it has to be, it can't be little me trying to hold that back, right? Okay, so some of it, well, yeah. I think, well, let me know. Let me know. What do you want? So those of you that just answered me on Zoom, I think you would like this lifestyle, but a lot of people wouldn't, right? It's very simple. I don't, but I'm lucky if I go to the shop once a month. I'm just saying. I'm telling you, once a month. Yeah, Eric goes more often because he works. He's out and about a bit more than me, but I'm quite happy with that. Quite happy with that. Did you go shopping today? Every now and then I'll go and have a look around and see what's going on, but Yeah. I've never liked shopping or window shopping. My mum loves it. She would just do it as like, oh, my mum loves it. Some people love it, like just going window shopping and walking around. Looking at things. I guess it could on occasion, but anyway, I went to supermarket, but I'm not a shopping therapy. Yeah. My therapy is what's my therapy? You know what my therapy is, or what I guess that's, I'm a bit nerdy. I like sitting in nature and either reading or writing. I'll write, handwrite, not, or, I'm always sitting under that tree. Not lately though, because all the leaves from the fires and winds and stuff, it's all coming back. All right, we probably should wrap up. I've been on here quite a while. What haven't I brought together? What did you want to know that I didn't talk about? I didn't talk about any of the questions, so I might need to come back on and do that. But I did read it this morning. I'm not sure when you sent it, but I saw it this morning. No, late last night I saw it. And I was like, oh, okay, I'll answer those questions. And I didn't. I apologize. I just went with what came in, and it wasn't that. I'm surprised with what came in. It was interesting, dynamic. But I trust it. So today was about power, knowing you have power, being conscious of whether you use that power in fear to have power over somebody else. So it might even be, I think this is a whole, we're gonna go here one day. When we fight, when we argue, and when we dig our heels in relationships, right, it's usually because we're scared. And we're scared of, well, I won't say what you're scared of, but you'll have your own things. But they usually come down to a few. And if we could all be conscious of that feeling powerless or feeling powerful, and fear of losing our power. The power and the why and the kidney energy will make sense to things that have been coming up, of course. All right, just got to trust it. And sometimes I listen to myself speaking, I'm going, whoa, where am I going with this? But it's almost like an extreme sport, right? When I show up and just allow whatever to come out of my mouth, I'm like, whoa, what am I going to say, right? But if I went into the spiral of it, so that's fear. But if I spiraled into that would be the fear of fear, and that would prevent me from speaking or showing up because of the fear, right? Because of what might happen. Whatever happens is going to happen, and I'll deal with it, And the not caring what you think of me. That's the biggest one I've had to overcome. I don't care what you think of me. Ultimately, if you didn't want to be here, you wouldn't be, right? And if you started saying nasty things, I'd just block you anyway, right? So whatever. Not everybody's going to like you. Not everybody's going to love you. Not everybody's going to, but I guess if you're showing up, there's some resonance there. So if you're new or you've just found the Wednesday slot, because I've only just changed it to Wednesday morning, ask you questions. You get more from me usually when there's questions, because it's like when there's that interaction, it's like more comes in. It feels awesome, right, to me, because it's like I'm not even thinking, It's just like information coming through. So it's interesting for me too, because I know what comes through is for all of us. It's for all of us. It's not me sitting up here like, I don't know, and like, so yes, power, powerlessness, fear, love. Knowing that when you're in the dark, just be aware that there's light there, and that the brightest or most magnificent light is dark light, is black light, is black plasma. And so when you feel like you're in the dark, you can go, okay, so am I in that polarity to the degree that now I'm in the light? And just look for it. Just look for it. Okay. Eric split his head open. Okay. Where's the light? And there is light. I'm not going to go into it now. He might later, but we're looking at that. We're looking at the energies. Actually, yesterday I was doing the biofield viewer on his head, and I might share some of those pictures, because I was doing I did an alignment on him, and then I was working the skin around, and literally, so working on the main energetics, but then going into specific, like the skin of the wound, and the bruise. So, and the sweat, like it was like this off his head, right? And it's just completely flat. It's beautiful today. It's beautiful, clean, well, yeah, all done, right? No swelling, no oozing, no bruising, nothing. So, I always say, well, it could be what we did energetically, or it could be you just healed really well, right? Sometimes I'll say, I tend to like to think that it was the healing, right? There's certain times where I will claim the healing. Well, it's actually not healing. I will claim that the energetics, the alignment of the energetics, and how that shifted so fast, right? But it's that thing about it's you and it's not you at the same time. Yeah, it's you and it's not you at the same time. So we see amazing things happen, and it's like, well, could have been this, it could have been that. What is it? Right. But I'm doing more with the biofield viewer. I'll show you. So I'll see if I've got to ask his permission, because I've been taking photos of his head and putting it through and doing the different screenings, so you can see, and also teaching him how to read it, so that he can see where the wound is, and how that's shifting, and where it's quite cool, really. But I haven't played with the biofield viewer for a while, because I've been traveling. I've been over here, but I'm going to bring that back out again, and we'll see. We might do some live stuff, because there's some upgrades to it, and I haven't used it since the upgrades. So maybe next week, we'll see. And I might be able to do, especially on Zoom, like those of you that come on Zoom, there's a way that, yeah, we'll see if we, maybe I'll talk to the ones that come on Zoom, and I'll just see what you're open to, and we might be able to do some basic energy live, so that you can see the energy shift. But I have to set up 2 computers to do that. So because one will be having to watch the screen, so that anyway. But that's how I used to do it in sessions. I used to set up 2 computers, and so that you could see your energy live and take you through particular whatever's going on for you, and you can see it shift in real time, and you can take stills from it so you can compare as well, and those sorts of things. Anyway, so probably in the next week or so we'll start looking at how I can set that up here and show you like what we're talking about, rather than just talking about it. I can actually show you some stuff, right? And yeah, all right. Are we done? Are we complete? You being like that and not caring has helped me not think about what others think. Oh, look, people are going to just do what they do. And the more magnificent you are, the more they're going to try and pull you down. I remember when I first went back to school, and everyone around me that like taunted me, teased me, even were quite nasty. Like, who do you think you are now? Or just because you went back to school, you think you're better than us and all of that. And all the way through, that's what I got. Why? Because they want to stop you. Why? Because they feel less than. It's not you making them feel it, right? They just feel that regardless. And if you're in a, oh God, I might be on this live all day, the way I'm going. If you have that in your culture, in the field of your family, that you're a blue collar worker, or there's a particular, no one in your family went to university, or they were all what do you call trades people, right? So they're all trades people. So if you went to university, it was like, oh, you're the enemy, right? In my life, we were blue collar, right? So anybody, well, not really. Yeah. Both my grandmothers had degrees and nobody knew. This is probably why. Both of them, I found out, well, my dad's mum, she had a science degree. I found out after her death because I found it. I knew she was a mathematician. Like, I knew that she taught in schools, but see, they downplay everything. Anyway, so when I started to go to school, I was the only known female to go to university, like, well, even male, like, no, right? It was all like Defence Force, get your trades and education through the Defence Force, all that sort of stuff, which I did to a degree, but then I went outside of that, right? And everybody around me, it's like, who do you think you are? You think you're better than us now? And da-da-da-da. And every time I went to get a job, what do you want to do that for? Right? Everything I've done. What do you want to do? Like, but isn't that hard? Why do you want to do that? Nothing was ever celebrated. Nothing. Even now, nothing I do is celebrated. Don't let other people's opinions get in your way. Nobody supports what I do. And never has. Never has. Right? It's a calling. Like, go listen. What do you want to do with your life? What are you called to do? Do not listen. And the people around you, if they've been around you most your life, they're going to be from the same, most of the time, right? From the same point, even if you think they're conscious. I have people around me still today that are very conscious, but when I go to move my business in another direction, they'll be like, oh, what do you want to do? That's hard work. Of course it's hard work. Everything's work, like everything. Do you think things just pop up and come up? Do you think for a 10-month program, it's just, no, it's work. Every day I'm working on it in some way, shape or form, right? Even if I've already done it, because you'll know that my programs are never the same, right? Because I'm constantly developing it because of the information coming in, right? Why would you want to do that? I don't want to. It's who I am. It's what I'm supposed to do and be. I've surrendered to that. Once you surrender to who you are, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you look a certain way or can't speak or, you know, knock something over or, you know, I don't know, say something inappropriate by accident, whatever. It's like you're always going to offend somebody, and things change so much. Oh, do you know? So this is my joke, my recent joke, and this will probably offend a lot of you, but I don't care. I got a reel or a I think it was a reel, and it was about how this woman was saying 2 + 2 doesn't equal 4 anymore. Did any of you see that? I think I reposted it. Yeah. 2 + 2 does not equal 4 anymore. Or it can, but it can also equal 5 and whatever else. And because there's multiple answers to a question, you know, and all this sort of stuff. And I was like, first I had a little chuckle, and then I was like, I messaged my friend and I said, I just made a joke of it basically, because I was never good at math, right? So it wasn't that I was stupid, it was that I was in this other dimension, right? So that was sort of the joke. Anyway, it's not funny if you have to explain it. But the point was that you can't even say, like, math is even wrong now. What did they say? It's racist. It was racist, or it was some ism for 2 + 2 to equal 4, right? This is where we're going. This is where we're going. And I'm like, okay, I understand the multiple reality thing. I see things from multiple perspectives, and I get where they were going. But it's like language. Unless you have some common way to interact, you won't understand me, right? So if we don't have a common understanding of numbers, then how can we, right? So I was saying to my friend, I wasn't stupid, they were just racist, because I was getting my math wrong, right? Anyway, this is what we're dealing with. So you just got to go, oh yeah, I just make a joke of everything, because you know, I don't take any of it too seriously. I love math, Rebel. I love it. I love numbers. I love math. The real basic math I can't do for my life. Cannot do for my life. I used to when I was like 9, 10, I had all my times tables, right? And these little books, and I'd cover it so that, you know, I would sit in the bathtub and I'd go over my times tables, and then I recorded myself saying my times tables so I could just play it and learn them. I still don't know them. I still don't know them. There is some block there. It might be because my grandmother was a mathematician and my dad is a freaking genius. Could be something to do with that. But my genius comes in other places. I can do a lot of high math, right? And geometry and stuff like that. And I'm fascinated by number and how the understanding of numbers gives you an understanding of life. Our you know, math is life, right? But it's not our times tables, right? It's not our times tables. So people get offended about lots of things, and there is too much separation, people wanting to be different. And I know this sounds wrong. Yeah. Like, I just say whatever you think is true for that moment. I'm not going to argue with you. But when I do my calculating how much money I have, I'm going to go 2 + 2 is 4. Or maybe it's 10. 2 + 2 is 10. And I'm going to go to the bank and say no, but you know, it was interesting. I just find it interesting. So I say, you know, everything is true. Everything has a truth. So I get where they're going. Do you understand that I get it? This is the thing. My mind can go anywhere and I can get it. I'm like, yeah, any answer can be correct. Everything that you say has truth to it. Why? Because of the polarity. You go deep enough into the white, there's dark. Deep enough into the dark, there's light. You go into the black hole. I always said this before science started talking about the white hole. This little chicken was talking about it. Why? Because I experienced it directly. And I talked to, that's why I have friends that are physicists, right? Still to this day. And man, the conversations we used to have, because I'll be like, this is what I'm seeing. And this is what I experienced directly. And this is how I see, da-da-da-da-da. And they'll be like, no, it's not possible. Da-da-da-da. Oh, what? All these years later, da-da. Yes, it is. So my point being, everybody might tell you you're wrong. You know, you've heard my story about the water and all that as well, right? It's always 10 years ahead. I'm a visionary, right? So it's like what you're talking about, it's not true for others at that point, but it will be, right? And then you'll be on to the next thing. So you're always going to be another, right? You're always going to be the weird one because you're always looking at what's coming, what's in the field, what the potential, right? And the rest has to catch up. So there's always truth. It's the paradox. The paradox. So rather than going, so politics in America is coming up, right? I believe, yeah? There's an election coming up. Anyway, wherever you are in the world, you know, who's right and who's wrong? Maybe they're all right. Maybe they're all wrong. But, you know, where are the fears and where are the fears coming from? They're all, I was going to say they're all warmongering, but it's more, they're all fear mongering, right? They're all in fear and they're all in their survival, right? And then they're linking into people's fears, which spiral that, right? And it just goes on and on and on and on and on. So we just recognize your own fears, recognize their fears, and there'll be truth there. But it's like, you know, where you're holding it. It's like in this moment, what is true for you? In this moment, what is true for you? In this moment, what is true for you? And not what's in the future. Like what's, you know, okay, I've got a fear of pain or a fear of, you know, taking that next step and being having success. What would that success mean? Oh, my whole family will come down on me because, you know, they're going to tall poppy, you know, they cut the tall poppy. They cut you down because you're getting too big, too tall, too seen, too light, too bright, right? So they're going to try and dim you. And let it be okay. Don't make them wrong. Just let it be okay. So there's no fear around it. So then you're not projecting onto them. Then there's no fighting. It's just like, yeah, no, this is what I'm doing. Oh, yeah, all that's happening. Yep. Yep, that's just the mechanism. And know that. The people in your tribe, in your community, most likely, if it's the one you've been in all your life, won't understand you, won't get you, won't be able to see the visionary that you are. So love them, but also don't be scared to step out of that, right? Meaning there are people that will see you, that will support you, that will want to lift you up, that will want to walk with you, right? So if you don't have that, it's okay. It's okay, right? Happen to Jesus. Happen to Jesus if you're a Jesus lover, right? It happened to in your own home, you're just you, little you. And no matter what magnificent things that you do and miracles that you carry out, you're still going to be just you. Okay? To them. That's okay. Be little you to them. And step out and be magnificent. Maybe they'll see you, maybe they won't. It's their fear. It's okay. Their fear, love them anyway. But whatever you do, I'm going to finish on this, otherwise I'll be here all day. I've got alignments too. Whatever you do, please don't not step out because of what your loved ones or think or say. You play a role. You play a role. It's actually, we used to call it systems theory. Systems theory. So, and you know, in a family, what role you played. There's theories on it, right? What role you play in the family. Some of you might have been the unwell one. You've had a chronic health. And when you start to get well, watch out. Watch out. When you start to get well, right, everybody else's role has to change. People don't like change. It frightens them. Their triple woman, their energy system starts to go, oh, there's a shift. Fear. Right? And all the mechanism starts pulling energy from other systems and all the rest of it because you started to get well, or because you shifted out of the role that you've played for 20 years and now everybody else has to adjust. So you're disrupting everyone in your family system. That's just your family system, right? And so unconsciously, they're going to try to make you be how you were so they can be how they were, right? So be aware of that. Or just, you know, just keep that there. Don't make them wrong. Don't make them bad. Just love them and know that's a human process. It's the way us little humans work. So we can't make them wrong. But what do we do about it? Are we going to stay unwell? Or are we going to stay small? Or are we going to stay in a job that is killing us? Because if we shift from some professional role to a creative role or vice versa, what does that mean to the rest of the family? Right? You hear about, it's more in the past. I don't think it's still around, I guess. It's like, oh, my son or daughter is going to go to university and be a doctor or a lawyer or a you know, something like that, right? So be aware of those pressures. My girls never had that. I was like, go, don't go. I'll support you, whatever you do. So the one that found higher education really easy didn't go to university. She became a tradeswoman, an awesome one. She's an electrician now. Right, and she goes around and does talks at schools and stuff about women in, anyway, that's my youngest. My oldest, who struggled in mainstream schooling, went to university. Interesting. So she's the nurse. She's the works in ICU, right? And what she had to overcome, well, both of them, right? They sort of went the opposite ways of what was expected in sort of, you know, for how they are. But you give them the just give them the choice, give people the choice. support them. Don't go, oh yeah, you never have to work or do anything, just sponge off the government the rest of your life, right? It's like, who are you? What do you like? What does your heart desire? What's your legacy in the world? What do you want to do, right? And these are all the things. Like there's millions of things that you could choose from. There's so many things that you don't even know what to do. I didn't know. I went to university and I kept changing what I was doing because I was like, oh, I didn't even know about that. No one told me about that. What is an anthropology? I don't even know what anthropology is. And when I chose it, I did it because I had to do it for police studies, right? When I went to join the police, I was like, oh, I love this. So I did anthropology, right? And it's perfect. It's perfect. No jobs in it, but all righty. I hope you got something from some of that. If not, I had fun procrastinating from doing my work. What was I going to tell you today? There was some work things. The retreat. What's the date today? The 30th. So at the end of August. So tomorrow, it's the 31st of August, tomorrow. So we've got an early bird. I think 4 earlies. Yeah, 4 earlies. Tomorrow, or the 1st of September, so the end of the 31st of August, one of those earlies will go. So it goes up. So if you want to do that, it's a 2-day. It's not until April, but hey, give yourself an Easter present or give somebody else an Easter present. It's a beautiful, healing, in-depth, transformational process over 2 days, not full days, but if you're interested, I'll send out the link. You don't need to know how to paint. You don't need to know how to draw. You don't need to know how you're doing anything. I will take you through each process. It's a deep, transformational process that then you can use over and over and over again. And the image that you come away with is, I say they're power generators. My paintings talk to me still from 10 years ago, right? They continue to inform you because they're layered upon layer with information that I'm guiding you, but it's your information that's coming up, and you put it onto the portal, which is the canvas. Okay. So it's a creative, conscious, transformational process that is related to the rise to rose. So some of the information I talked about today, there you go. Those levels, understanding where you are in those levels, what maybe needs to be shifted for you personally, right? So anyway, there's a lot to it. It's a process that I've been doing probably, oh God, I could say most of my life because I'm a creative. But it goes up. Now, it will still be available, but it'll just be a little bit more, right? So it's at $297 at the moment. It will eventually go back up to $697. So that's $400 off at the moment for the next 2 days. So by September, there'll still be an early bird, but it'll be more, right? So the incentive is that if you want it cheap, get it now. Cheaper, my offer. And it's cool. If you really want to come and you're not sure about something, message me. But anyway, that wraps up. And was there something else I wanted to say? I guess that's it for now. That's the main thing, because that runs out. And I don't do a lot of posting and stuff. Maybe I should, but I think I've done enough. I'll put some more out today, later on. But yeah, I'll leave it at that. If you want any other information, let me know, and I can give you the link. Yeah, I think that's the main question that came up, is around the creative stuff. But a lot of people say you have to do it to understand it, right? So it's the most profound transformational process that I know, and it's why I've done it most of my life. I just haven't taught it for a while. I used to teach it all the time live. Used to do workshops and whatnot, do it live. But I've only been doing it one-to-one with my clients over the last few years. But so this one is really the first sort of small group. It won't be a huge, big thing. It's because I'm taking you through, right? Step by step. You're watching me, I'm demonstrating, we're doing it together, we're deep diving, we're visioning, we're writing, we're drawing, we're painting. So we're not painting a pretty picture, we're painting power generator, layered with your information for the transformation of that information. It's alchemical, right? Shifting, bringing it up, out onto the portal, and as it reaches that portal, there's a transformation. It's amazing. Anyway, you have to, it's one of those things that is a direct experience, right? I can tell you till I'm blue in the face, unless you've experienced it, it won't really make sense. But once you have, you'll be like, all right, I'm going to go. It's been a long one today. I must have needed it. I did a beautiful meditation this morning, so that might be why too. All right. So if you have anyone who is suffering, or yourself that you'd like to just place, as I go out, I'm just going to do a couple of minutes circle. So just placing with your intention the name of the person who might be struggling, or who you might like to send a little bit of extra love, what we call grace, which is different to energy medicine. This is like purity of unconditional love. And we're just going to sit for a moment. All those that may need a little extra love today, a little extra support, may they be open and willing to sip from this vessel, this purity of unconditional love. May they be touched by the hand of grace as they walk forward in their life today. And may they experience the blue directly as she guides them to the beloved. Let it be so. And may the blessings be. Thanks for showing up. And if you've got any questions, let me know. Much love to you all. Ciao.